All right, so we are going to get started here. I'm on Do Not Disturb. Hopefully that will do what we need to do. All right, so just a reminder, everybody, if you go to youtube.com, go to there, you're going to see, give you an example, I do, hot fire agent training. It'll pop right up for you, and then you'll see my pretty face. Click that thing, and you've got access to all these videos. So you can, I don't necessarily mark them really good, but if you want to, search for Zillow, maybe Zillow training, you got a bunch of stuff you could talk about. You can look at playlists. Z training full playlist.
Hey, what is up? Simplify real estate agents.
Anyway, there's 5 things about how to do Zillow well, whatever. So don't forget that's there. How to put a listing in Matrix. It's right there. I can't meet and start from scratch. Hardev just did a good job. He watched videos. He got us started. And then we talked about what he could do differently. So anyway, we are going to jump into the purchase agreement today, which is, and you're not going to see my face, which is probably good for you, except for on this screen here. So I'm going to go to Zip Forms. You can follow me right along. If you're watching this on your phone, you'll be able to, do lots of different things, but you can always pause it and come back. You can take notes. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to be here in our form. So I'm going to go to templates where I can get in to see these and adjust these. We're going to go to purchase residential. So inside this, you guys already know this is the template. When you load up something properly in Zip Forms for a new offer, you're going to see all this. And what we're going to be talking about today is the purchase agreement. I want to make sure that we're going to talk about this for a bunch of weeks because it's going to take a long time to dig through it in depth. I'm going to do my best to spend time on it and try to answer questions. But if you're here in person, you can obviously answer questions. So we are going to dive right in. I was going to change this view. I don't remember how to change the view. Full screen. There we go. Now it's a little bigger for you. All right, we ready to go? All right, here we go. So some of this is going to be filled in already. You're going to see, and that's fine, because that's how it comes into your templates. But we're just going to start and go line by line. So up here at the top, this is the listing broker. So the reason this is filled out for me is because you're on my team. So nothing in here ever gets changed. When you import it into Matrix, or from Matrix into Zip Forms, it's going to fill this in for you with the company name of the listing broker, their office code, their agent name, the team lead, and the agent ID for that person. Just like here, Fathom Realty, office code, my name. This does not change to your name. You do not add your name. Also, it's just like this. And it's done. They will know you're working with them because you're working with them. You can tell them you're the contact, but ultimately they're going to talk to Andrea anyway in most cases, primarily. So this is only here so that the other agent knows who to put it into Matrix on. So, but that's what this area is for, okay? Obviously this is a date. Yay, super cool. So this is a date at which we're writing this. This is the date that's referenced. If you see an amendment someday that says, this is an amendment to the purchase agreement dated blank, this is the date they're talking about. And you're going to put it as the day you're writing it. It's okay if they sign it the next day, but this is just the date you're writing it. Right here is the buyer. So just to be clear, if it's a company that is buying the house, the company name is here. Remember that this line will get filled in automatically if you've done everything you're supposed to do when it comes to the parties tab. So let's pop this one open, somebody's deal. Remember, we're supposed to work left to right. Summary fills itself in when you import from Matrix. So you generally jump to the parties tab and make sure it's correct. Okay, so then you do documents. Well, when you fill out your parties tab appropriately with everything like it's supposed to look, it's going to fill in many of these lines. See, this person came in automatically because she's part of the parties tab. So the buyer was already put in correctly. If it's a company, then you fill out your parties tab correctly, and the company name will go in that line. Okay, so there's reasons we do everything the way we do them. But this is going to be the buyer. There's room for 2 buyers. If you need more buyers, you come over here to all forms, and we're in the residential, and there's a signature page addendum that then gives you the opportunity to do more people, okay? You will not need that very often, but if you have more than 2 buyers, you might need to, add this, okay? I can also help you do it other ways potentially, but this is kind of an official way to do it. So, but notice if I type in SIG, these still show up. I'm always going to encourage you to not search with tons of information over here. Whenever you're doing a search for anything in any form, don't search entire words, because if I type in inspection, okay, great. Look, it pops up. But look at that, ADD. If I were to type in addendum, look, they're all gone. I don't have them. So when you're searching, be wise. Just do add, and that's going to pop up all these addendums that you can use, okay? That's just a tip for you. I got to delete what I just added here. All right, so I'm in templates still, by the way. So back to the purchase agreement. Full screen. We talked about the buyer. You do the parties tab right, this is going to be done right. Property. This is going to auto-populate when it comes from Matrix. So property is known as, this is going to be the address. Okay, you see I hovered over and it popped up property street address in whatever township. And sometimes I end up doing this in township because I don't know what it is and I'm too lazy to look it up. But if you can find out on the tax record or whatever what township it is, it's good to put in there. This is then county. So 123 Main Street in Pleasant Township, Johnson County, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. Okay? Legally described as. We've been through this, but I will go ahead and show you what you're going to do. Legally described as, you're going to have to just do your best. And it's really funny to me what I'm about to show you. Log in here. Okay. This is crazy to me. This is nuts. We're going to get in here. It takes 3 tabs to open MyBoard, which is funny. But let's just do 2 West Main Greenwood. All right, it's going to pop up here. Now watch this. We go to this listing, and it says legal description right here in Matrix. Okay? Well, that's not the legal description. Certainly not the full one. It doesn't even have a lot number. So then I'm always ignore this. Could you click tax? Maybe. Where's the legal description on here? Right down here. That's the legal description. Okay? Now, that's not a real legal description necessarily. It might be, but it's not always the full one. And then I'm going to show you something that's more funny. And look, right here, this is where you get your parcel ID number. Okay? So I'm actually going to put this and then a hyphen and then parcel ID, and then I'm going to put this. I'm going to put both items because that's going to help make sure everybody understands what property we're buying. If you're doing a purchase agreement on land or commercial, it's very important that it is clear what you're buying. Maybe there's a property with 2 different parcels. Well, go ahead and make sure they're both on there. We recently did that. There was 2 parcels. So we had to get into a, like a map like this. Hello. We had to go, okay, we're buying, let's call it 2 parcels. Well, here's a good one. If you were buying this, I bet that's related to this, see? So I'm going to have to go, well, I'm buying 100 West Main Street, and I'm going to do all the stuff and get the description and the parcel number. But I'm also going to have to go here and mark that, go into the tax record. And I'm going to have to go in and get this one and this one. I'm going to put them both in the property description because it's important that otherwise, if you don't put them both, you're not buying them both. You got to get them both. And you might even reference multiple addresses. So I'll take you there. But that's what I wanted to show you about when it comes to this here is you're getting the address in. And this may end up in that case, you may be 100 West Main and 200 West Main. So it may be 100, 200 West Main, Greenwood, Indiana, blah, blah, blah. Because we got 2 addresses. We're putting 2 legal descriptions. Okay. But let me show you that 2 West Main thing again. So we're going to the listing, and we went to the tax to get what we wanted. But check this out. If you click this tax ID, again, I've been through this. This is already on video, but you can watch it again. Click that parcel number. It takes you to this. And when you click that parcel number, this remains active. And so you can see some stuff in here that's really good. Some listing information. You can see some sales history. You can see, there's where I bought the house. I don't know if it talks about pricing. Yep, there it is. Bought it for $135,000. Okay. So, but then I may want to see more information, and I want to go to Beacon, and I clicked that link, and here's where it came up. It's got all the information from Beacon now, right there. But I want to show you that if I click tax, it's going to take me to this spot. But look, there's nowhere for me to click to get to Beacon. Okay? That's why I tend to click here. And then it pulls up a thing, and you can look at information, and then you can click again to go to Beacon if you want. That is the property description. This is so important. I have had the wrong property deeded to my client. We actually did all of this correctly. The title company still made a mistake, but that woke me up to the reality that I better make sure I always have it right. And I've looked at, different things. If you're going to buy a property where you're going to buy part of the land, let's say there's 10 acres, but you only want to buy 1 acre of it, then there's lots of ways we're going to go about that. But the key is, let's be very specific about what we're buying, and this is a good section to start that in. An example, if you're buying 1 acre of 10, then we're going to print a picture. We're going to mark what approximately we're buying, 1 acre. Like, we're going to do a lot of things. Everybody signs it, so everybody has at least a general idea of what we're buying. All right. Now, next lines, 11 through 16. I'm going to read this. I want you to read it along with me together. So we're buying. What are we buying? We're buying the property. So remember, if you look up here, if you read the whole thing, buyer agrees to buy the following property from the owner for the consideration and subject to the following terms, provisions, and conditions. Colon. The rest of the purchase agreement is what are the terms. Well, they are the property being listed, and they are for the amount we're paying, and it's subject to the terms, provisions, and conditions that come after that line 5. So the property is the address, the actual real property, together with, so also including, any existing permanent improvements and fixtures attached, unless they are leased or excluded, including but not limited to, and then it gives us a big long list of items that are automatically included in the property. Why are they automatically included? Well, because they are in Indiana. No, they're automatically included because they're written in the contract here. This contract is deciding what stays with the house, not some general operating principle. That's why contracts are important. So we're buying the property together with any permanent improvements and fixtures attached, including but not limited to, meaning there could be more, but because we're going to call it permanent improvements and fixtures attached, electrical or gas fixtures, heating and central air conditioning equipment and all attachments thereto, built-in kitchen equipment. That's not your fridge. Your fridge is not built in. Some fridges are built in, but not normal ones. Sump pumps stay. Water softeners stay, unless they're leased. If they're leased, they technically should be down here. Where am I at? Water softener, water purifier, okay? Fireplace inserts, gas logs and grates, central vacuum equipment, windows, shades, and blinds. Now here's where we're going to get creative. But we all know what blinds are. Curtain rods. That is the rod that goes horizontal. That is the horizontal rod that is attached to the wall with those brackets. Drapery poles and fixtures. I'm not really sure how that's any different, what draperies are, but versus curtains, but these are attached to the wall. Notice the drapes, the curtains, they do not stay unless we write them in. Curtain rods stay. Drapery poles and fixtures stay. Ceiling fans, other light fixtures, towel racks and bars, storm doors, windows, awnings, TV antennas. These are normally affixed to the ceiling or to the roof or in the attic or something. Wall mounts for TVs or other things, honestly. We all assume wall mounts for TVs, but it could be wall mounts for anything like speakers for your surround sound. Satellite dishes, they're screwed down normally, or they're stabbed into the ground. Storage barns. So there you go. Do you need to mark that the mini barn is going with the house? No, it's already here. All landscaping. Can you take that rock that your mom gave you? No, you have to leave the rock unless you exclude it. You can't take your favorite tree that your son planted from his kindergarten class unless you exclude it. Mailbox stays, garage door openers with controls, and the following. So all of these things come with it automatically, plus anything you write here. Okay? So this is where you're going to then write in, refrigerator, micro hood, oven range. Normally it looks like I do this. Okay. Washer, dryer. And then if you want something that is personal property that's not one of these type of items, then you're going to write in there this. And at no value to the, no value, I'm just making something up. This is the general idea. And at no value, comma, for seller convenience only, and with no value, and for, there you go. You'll be able to go back and do all this. And with no value and for seller convenience only, actually, we could put a period after dryer, and then capital with no value and for seller convenience only, seller will leave the pool table and all accessories. Okay? Why do I do with no value and for seller convenience only? I am communicating to the lender. It doesn't always work, but I'm communicating to the lender that they are not loaning on a pool table. They are loaning on a property. I very seldom have problems with them wanting to remove things from the purchase agreement when I write them this way. Having no value, that's actually a good way to write that. Having no value and for seller convenience only, seller will leave the pool table and all accessories. Seller will leave the hot tub. Seller will leave the curtains, So now that's how I write that. But this is where you add in all of the other items. I'm going to delete this now, so go back and we'll look at that. But that's a really good way to write that. You can find that information in Matrix. Let me pull up oh, poor girl, has no listings found. I'm going to show you where you could be looking. Still not very many listings for them. All right, 705 Green Meadow. We click here. On Matrix, remember, we're looking at the appliances. We're looking at equipment. Okay, most of this equipment will automatically stay. But if it says water softener rented, I'm going to exclude that. But I might just do this, copy it, and then come back over here and paste it in. Okay? But I'm going to look there. I'm going to think back to my showing what was there. I'm taking pictures for my clients sometimes. And then I may also come back here and look through the pictures. Okay, so see, look, dishwasher, refrigerator. The microwave's over here, so you might want it, you might not. It's got a oven built in, and it's got a cooktop, right? So I'm going, okay, cool. So let's check that against what they wrote. Cooktop, okay. Oven built in, great. Dishwasher, uh-oh. What are they missing? They're not currently planning on leaving according to this. And according to this, they're not leaving the refrigerator. That's good for your client to know. Okay, so this is why we do all this checking. You come down here real quick and just be like, oh, oop, okay, zippity doo-dah, whatever. And then you copy it in. Your client has no idea that the seller's not leaving the refrigerator. You may be buying a refrigerator because they're going to be mad at you. I've bought my share of refrigerators. It happens. But this is the way I go about finding these things out. Excluding. You should include the leased items. So if the water softener is leased, you should put it there so everybody understands it does not come with the house. Maybe the seller is taking a a wet bar that is hooked up to plumbing and everything, but it's a family heirloom. I had that recently, and there's a Coca-Cola light fixture above it. We had to exclude those items. So if a seller's told you to exclude items, do it. Are they going to tell you to exclude items that are already excluded? Yes. Sometimes on a purchase agreement, you're going to see where they have put please exclude or exact example. Seller will not be leaving the refrigerator. Okay. You know what? Even though it automatically does not come with the property, do you think clarity might be good? And just go ahead and tell the seller that when we're making our offer, we understand you're not leaving the refrigerator in the kitchen. And wouldn't this also tell your client, the buyer, that they're not getting a free fridge? The answer is yes. So clarity is never bad. I don't like redundancies if I can help it, but sometimes clarity is good. But this is where we exclude items. And most of the time, those are going to be like, maybe they're going to exclude wall mounts. That's a terrible idea, by the way. Don't exclude wall mounts. Leave the wall mounts. We did that recently. Somebody wanted to take their wall mounts with them. We did not exclude them because all that's going to do is leave a huge hole in the wall. And now you got patching and painting and everything. It looks terrible. Lots of fights happen over stupid stuff like that. Leave your silly wall mounts. All right. The terms of this agreement will determine what items are included and excluded, not the seller's disclosure form. They had to add this because people don't use their brains. Agents would look at a seller disclosure, and let's say somebody would mark the refrigerator in this case. Remember, this one didn't have a fridge included. They would have marked on the seller's disclosure, not defective, where there's a spot that could say not included if they weren't going to include it. But instead, the seller marked on the seller's disclosure, the refrigerator was not defective. Well, that's still an appropriate thing to mark because it is included. It exists on the property. So it is included. The seller's disclosure doesn't determine what is sold with the home. The seller's disclosure just discloses what currently is happening in the home. And there is a fridge there, and it is not defective. But buyers were thinking, agents were thinking, I would say, that because it says the fridge is not defective, that somehow that means it's included in the sale. The seller's disclosure does not govern the sale of the property. It merely discloses the current, to the best of their knowledge, actual knowledge, the condition of the property. Okay? So keep that in mind. Not the seller's disclosure form, the multiple listing service, or other promotional materials. Terms of this agreement, the purchase agreement, will determine what items are included and excluded, not the seller's disclosure, the MLS, or other promotional materials. If you put I had this recently, listing, we said the washer and dryer are 1 year old and they're included with this, they can be included with the sale of the home. The agent did not list the washer and dryer on lines 17 through 19. So we sold them. Right here, it says other promotional materials do not govern what is included and excluded. Do not get caught doing that. If they wanted the washer and dryer, it needed to be included here. Not looking at my little flyer that says all the cool things about the house. Another place that these issues come up, not only the promotional materials or the listing is a big one. Another big spot another thing would be like the seller plans to install a new fan in the living room before closing. They write that on the MLS. Guess what? they're not under obligation to install a new fan prior to closing unless you tell them to in the contract. So you could write new fan in living room right here, or you could do that in further conditions. But just because they say they're planning on it, if you buy the house, you're buying it the way it is, not the way they say it's going to be, because it's not a contract until it's a contract. All right? Look right here. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. Buyer should verify total square footage, land, room dimensions, or community amenities if material. So if I don't know. The buyer needs to figure all this stuff out. You can't come back later and go, ooh, the square footage isn't 3,000. It's only 2,000. Well, I mean, you can, but that's not a reason to get out of the contract. If you wanted to concern yourself with the number of square feet, you should have done your verification prior to writing an offer. Same with how big the land is, room dimensions, community amenities, etc. Also, I skipped this one. All items shall be fully paid for by seller at time of closing the transaction. So if there's a refrigerator, or if there's a great one is a security system that is not yet fully paid for, but it's on contract to be paid for, the seller has to pay that contract off with the security company before closing. Okay? They can't leave it and then make the buyer finish paying it off. I mean, they could try to get you to do that, but this is what that says. By the way, I'm not a lawyer, so check with your legal help if you have questions. Line 28, buyer will pay the total purchase price of, and you put the number in, right? This is $100,000, and then it'll automatically fit the rest of it. If buyer obtains an appraisal of the property, this is where it's important to see. If buyer obtains an appraisal of the property, this agreement is contingent upon the property appraising at no less than the agreed upon purchase price. So I'm going to use this here in a second. If appraised value is less than the agreed upon purchase price, buyer retains the option to proceed towards closing at the agreed upon purchase price. What does that say? If you're offered to pay $100 and the property comes in at $90, the buyer can continue to buy it at $100 without any questions, because that's the agreed upon purchase price. But if the buyer is not willing or able to proceed at the agreed upon price of $100,000 because the appraisal came in low, then one of two things can happen. Either party can terminate the agreement, or both parties can mutually agree to change the price. So it's, hey, I can't afford to buy it for $100 because the appraisal came in at $90 and I don't have $10,000 for the appraisal gap. Cool. Seller can choose to kill the deal, or they may mutually agree to change the price to 90 or 95 or whatever it is. But if the buyer is willing to move forward at the agreed upon price of $100, then the seller can't kill the deal. But if the buyer says, I'm not going to pay $100 because it only appraised at $90, then the seller or the buyer may kill the deal, or they may come together on an agreement. Now, this is a decent contingency. When you're writing a contingency, you need to have a couple of different elements. I like to just kind of say you need to have who, that's number one, needs to do what, by when, and then what happens if it doesn't occur. Who needs to do what, by when, and what happens if that does not occur. So this is the example I'm using. Who, the buyer, obtains an appraisal. So the buyer And then the what, who needs to do what? They need to obtain if they're going to obtain appraisal of the property, and what happens is it appraises at or above, appraising it no less than the agreed upon purchase price. So who, the buyer, gets an appraisal that does what? Appraises appropriately. That's the who, then the what. If it doesn't happen, now when is already addressed in the contract by closing date and by clear to close on your contract. So that's why they don't have a specific time frame in there for this. It's already in the contract later. But who is the buyer? What are they doing? They're getting an appraisal that is appropriate, that comes in appropriately. And by when, by closing, or by time to obtain clear to close on your financing. That's the third. Then the final element that I think is most important and easy to understand is what happens if it doesn't appraise, and it outlines that for us with these options. So anytime you're writing a contingency, the contingency for the seller to give you an example of a fun one I did. The husband was in town. The wife was in Washington State. Husband looks at the house with me and loves it, but says, hey, I want my wife to make sure she likes it. I want her to come see it. But I don't want her to fly here unless they're going to take our offer. So we wrote a contingency. This purchase agreement is contingent upon the wife's approval of the property by Thursday, June 2nd, 2023. Who, what, when. If the wife does not approve of the property, it must be if the wife does not approve of the property, it must be this reality must be delivered to this seller in writing by this date. Oh, I'm not doing a good job with this one. Here would be a good way to put that one. Well, this is a little different, I guess. So this purchase agreement is contingent upon, the wife's name. You can't really say wife though; it's a protected class, I think, marital status. But this purchase agreement is contingent upon the wife's name approving of the property by Monday, June 2nd, 2023. If disapproval has not been delivered to the seller in writing by 11:59 p.m. on June 2nd, 2023, it is deemed acceptable to wife's name. Something like that. We will word craft those individually, but basically who, the wife, what, she has to approve the property, when, by Monday the 2nd, and what happens if she doesn't? Well, she's going to have to deliver, and if property is not approved by wife, all earnest money is to be returned promptly to buyer. So what happens if she does not approve? Well, then we get all our earnest money back. Another way to write that, probably a simpler version, would be to more just reserve the right. So buyer reserves the right to terminate this contract on or before Monday, June 2nd, 2023, if buyer's wife does not approve of the property. That way, they have until that date to kill the deal. If they don't kill it by that date, it moves on. So there's a couple ways to get through that. Don't get hung up on that, but I did want to point out that contingencies are important, and you have to write them well, or you leave them open-ended. So a lot of conversation to be had about that. All right, earnest money, line 35. Earnest money. Is earnest money required? Nope, it's not. That is not the consideration required to have a contract. The consideration is the purchase price. Earnest money just shows how serious your buyer, or at least attempts to in some weird way, show how serious your buyer is about the contract. So generally, this is going to be 1% of the purchase price. In a seller market, could be more if you want to be aggressive. In a buyer's market, it may come way down to $500. Okay, but 1% right now is normal. But we are in a seller's market. This is a confusing spot. Buyer submits $1,000 US dollars as earnest money, which should be applied to the purchase price at closing. It's not really going to be applied to the purchase price in reality. It's going to be applied to their cash to close. But kind of like their down payment, if you will, which is obviously purchase price related, but it's just not quite as simple as it makes it sound there. If not submitted with the purchase agreement, which there have been years and years and years of people turning in a purchase agreement and a check for earnest money at the same time, not even accepted. They just write a check with the purchase agreement. It doesn't happen anymore, but it could. But if you don't submit it with the purchase agreement, earnest money should be delivered to the escrow agent. Escrow agent is whoever is holding it in escrow, in their bank account in escrow, special bank account. Within how long? Okay. We have 4 business days written in here. That's a long time. 2 business days is absolutely reasonable. We do not get pushback on this hardly ever, though. Just helps us be a little smoother, not have to stress so much. 4 business days after acceptance of offer to purchase. Escrow agent to be listing broker. That was the old way to do it. Selling broker, pretty uncommon. Or other, and then we have title company written in there. That's normal right now. Listing broker or title company, and most of the time it's title company. Almost every time in our deals, we do title company. Now, you're going to remember from your class this rule. Escrow agent shall, after acceptance of this agreement and within 2 banking days of receipt of the earnest money, deposit the earnest money into its escrow account. Okay? I'm not going to go through all the other stuff. I will, but not yet. Some agents are going to tell you, hold on. They're going to call you 2 days after the acceptance of the offer and go, hey, where's your earnest money? You're going to go, we have 4 business days. They're going to go, no, you have 2 days by Indiana law. You're going to go, no, I have 4 business days to get it to the escrow company. And then the escrow agent or company has 2 days to get it, 2 banking days to get it into their account. The 2-day rule is that once the escrow agent or company touches the money, they have 2 days to deposit it. Not that there's only 2 days for it to be delivered from the buyer to the escrow agent. Okay? There is a difference. This governs how long we have to deliver it. This legal standard governs how long the escrow agent has to deposit it into their account. But this earnest money, as we keep going, you should know what earnest money is at this point from your class and different things. But this is this part of the contract. We're going to put the dollars there. How long? Because remember, all days, according to a later piece in the contract, all days are calendar days unless otherwise noted. This is business days. That way, the reason we do that is because if you go under contract on a Friday at 6 p.m. and the title company is holding your earnest money, and it's a holiday weekend, meaning Memorial Day is Monday, and you said that you were going to deliver it within 2 days. Okay, let's play that out. Friday, they're already closed, but that's day 0 because the days start counting the day after something happens, unless otherwise noted. So a baby is born today. It is technically 1 day old tomorrow. So today is day 0 for a contract. It's a baby being born. Today is 0. Tomorrow is day 1. So we have 2 days to get if somebody wrote right here, 2 days after acceptance to deliver it. Friday is the day it happened. They can't do it because the title company is closed. Day 1 is Saturday. Title company is closed. Day 2 is Sunday. Title company's closed. They're out of contract before we ever got started. Monday's a holiday. Title company's closed. That's 3 days. 4th day, Tuesday, they can finally deliver it. Are there times when 4 days, 4 calendar days is not enough? Maybe. But most of the time, 4 calendar days will be enough even on a holiday weekend. Not always. We put 4 business days. Therefore, Friday was day 0. Saturday is not a business day. Sunday's not a business day. Monday's not a business day because it was a holiday. So we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We had a whole week to deliver our earnest money because we wrote 4 business days. Make sense? Got it. All right. Escrow agent shall do all the depositing within 2 days, and they're going to hold it until the time of closing the transaction or terminating of the agreement. Earnest money shall be returned promptly to buyer in the event this offer is not accepted. That's in the event they turned it in with the purchase agreement. If the buyer fails to timely submit the earnest money to escrow agent as agreed above, 4 business days, buyer agrees seller may one-sidedly terminate this agreement by serving notice of termination to buyer prior to the escrow agent receiving the earnest money. What does that say to you? Well, what that says is, let's say it's 4 business days and we're on our 5th business day and they don't have it yet. They can send us a notice of termination document, which is in the forms over here, okay? But it has to be sent prior to the escrow agent getting the earnest money. You can't say, oops, 10 days later, the escrow agent's had it for 3 days, and you guys go, well, hold on a second. It took you 7 days to turn in the earnest money. We're killing the deal. No. If you're going to kill the deal because of earnest money not being turned in, you've got to do it before the earnest money is delivered. You can't wait until it's delivered, get to an inspection, be mad about something on there, and then kill it. You cannot do that. You proceed in good faith until you decide you're not going to proceed. You can't have your cake and eat it too in that case. Makes sense? If you're going to kill it over something that happens, like earnest money not being turned in, you've got to kill it when it's happening, when the earnest money is not in. You can't wait till it gets turned in and then be all like, oh, we didn't get it in time. All right. Disbursement. This is what's going to handle how earnest money is dispersed. All right. I know you guys are going, I can't believe we're just on page 1. And believe me, there is more to be said in all of this. I'm just giving you a good amount of information. Upon notification that buyer or seller intends not to perform, that's important language, intends not to perform. When you send an email as a broker, be very careful. Very careful. When you notify the other party that you intend to not perform, you send an email or a text that says, my buyer's out, we're not continuing with the we're not buying the house. Whatever it is, you say we're not going to perform. That is a big deal. It didn't say upon a mutual release being signed by both parties agreeing to not move forward. It literally says upon notification that buyer or seller intends not to perform. Maybe you sent a mutual release. They haven't signed it on the other end, but you sent a mutual release, or you sent an email or a text that says, hey, we're out. We're going to be sending you a mutual release soon. This is you notifying them you're not moving forward, and now they can change course completely. I listened to a lawyer the other day that said, basically, if they say they're not buying the house, put it back on the market. You don't have to wait for a mutual release. They said, I know I'm getting excited and you can't see me, but I'm waving my hands. They said they're not buying it. There's no takebacks. I'm putting it on the market and selling it to someone else. Here's why. In Indiana, you have to mitigate damages. You have to limit damages as much as you can. If I tell you I'm not buying your house and it takes us 6 months to resolve in court what's going on with the house, the judge, if I haven't tried to resell the property, the judge is not going to allow me to claim that I have lost 6 months of house payments, that I've all this time and energy. He's going to say, well, did you try to sell the property again? You say no. He's going to go, well, I'm not granting you all of this damage. You should have sold the property. That was dumb to sit around and just wait. You should sell the property. So if I'm a listing agent, I am absolutely, if you tell me you're not buying it and we're going to fight over earnest money, then I'm going to put it back active on the market, because you as the seller have to mitigate your damages to resell. So if you tell them you're not buying it, don't be surprised when it pops back up on the market without a mutual release, because by Indiana standards, they have to put it back on the market and try to resell it. Then they resell it for $20,000 less than what you said you were going to buy it for. And if they win in court, you absolutely may be liable for that $20,000 difference. So anyway, a lot of information there, but I just wanted to point that out. I tell you all the time, read, listen, ask questions of what you're reading. This line right here would inform a lot of agents about the way they should handle things, but they don't understand it. They don't read it. They don't think. They don't seek counsel. This right here says a lot. So if the buyer or seller notifies the other parties that they intend not to perform, and if escrow agent is a broker, so if the listing or selling broker is holding the earnest money, then that broker, Brent Rickards for us at Fathom Realty, if he was holding the earnest money, he may release the earnest money as provided in this agreement. Well, there's not always a provision for how it's going to be dispersed. There may be. Remember up here? If they've already agreed, like for instance, the termination of this agreement, because there's no earnest money, there's other reasons to do that too. If there's already a way that this is going to be dispersed, then he can just disperse it appropriately. If there's no for sure way, which let's say it's an inspection problem, well, there's nothing right now in this contract that states what happens to earnest money if an inspection, if we have an inspection fight. So if he knows how to do it, how to release it, then he can release it. But most of the time, if no provision is made in this agreement, which is normal, broker may send to buyer and seller notice of disbursement by certified mail of the intended payee as permitted in this Indiana legal code. Okay? So he's going to send, it's called a 60-day letter. He's going to send a thing out that says, again, title companies are not held to this. This is for brokers. So the managing broker is going to send a letter to the buyer and the seller that says, hey, if you guys don't enter into a mutual release or initiate litigation, if nobody sues the other person, and 60 days passes, I'm going to do this with the money. So Brent's going to go, if you two don't sue each other or come to an agreement within 60 days, I'm going to give half the money to each of you, or I'm going to give all the money to the buyer or all the money to the seller. Okay? If neither the buyer nor the seller enters into a mutual release or initiates litigation within the 60 days we talked about just now of the mailing date of the certified letter, broker may release the earnest money to the party identified in the letter. If the escrow agent is a broker, broker shall be absolved from any responsibility to make payment unless the parties enter a mutual release or court issues an order for payment, except as permitted in the item we talked about earlier, release of earnest money. So if this 60-day letter thing happens, then the broker is going to just give the earnest money the way they said they would if 60 days passes. If other than that, though, they're not going to give the money out, basically. So, it's very interesting. There's a lot that goes on here, but basically that's how earnest money is held. If you're not going to finish the transaction, the broker is probably not going to disperse it. He's going to send a 60-day letter, and then if 60 days passes and nobody's done anything, he's going to release the money as he said he would in the letter. If you guys sue each other or come to an agreement, then that is what will happen. The court will decide, or the mutual release will govern. Buyer and seller agree to hold the broker harmless from any liability, including attorney fees and costs for good faith disbursement of earnest money in accordance with this agreement and licensing regulations. So as long as the broker doesn't do something stupid in here, he's not responsible for people being mad about it. All right. This does not apply to title companies. You're going to find brokers that do not want title companies to hold it because if a title company holds it, there's either a title company earnest money agreement that's going to govern what happens, or they're just going to sit there forever until somebody sues somebody and a court order is obtained or a mutual release happens. So you got to assume if a title company is going to hold it, you're going to have to sue each other or come to an agreement. That's the end of the story. There's no 60-day letter for that. Okay? All right. I'm going to pause at the end of the first page, and we will come back next time.